What are you going to do with all these animals? They've just slaughtered hundreds of heads of cattle in Ireland in the name of climate change. What? So you're going to slaughter animals in the name of climate change, but we can't eat them? The lunatics are running the asylum, Dave?
How did you find the carnivore diet?
Well, I stumbled across Dr. Sean Baker on an online video interview that he was doing. I was looking at Anthony Pompliano, actually, because he's a Bitcoin guy, and I've got a little bit of an interest in that. And I saw this interview with Sean Baker, and I was absolutely fascinated by it. And it was just at the end of last year, so it would have been November, December of 2022. Anyway, long story short, I had gained a bit of weight over in my 40s. I was enjoying drinking and eating, not junk food, but enjoyed restaurants and takeaways, and cooking carbonara and having bread with stews and soups and all that kind of stuff, chocolate, a couple of biscuits with a cup of tea, etc. And I found that I was getting more unhealthy, a bit puffy, and looking in the mirror in my sort of late 40s and going, oh well, it's downhill from now, isn't it? And then of course we had the cerveza sickness hit us, and my wife and I decided that we would honor each other by using this time during the dreaded lockdown period to get fit. I know a lot of people started drinking a lot more and eating a lot more. My wife and I did the opposite. We decided that we would use this time to get fit, to build our immunity to anything, because at the time we didn't know what was going on. And so we started on a regime of intermittent fasting back in mid 2020, which was fantastic. And we were doing restaurant chez nous during lockdown because nothing was open. So we'd set out in our kitchen dining table with a nice white tablecloth and candles and a little half bottle of wine, and we'd cook lovely meals. And we actually found ourselves eating less. The more the intermittent fasting we did, we weren't getting as hungry, and we felt more satisfied. 2 meals a day was enough, and we were doing enough research on YouTube about intermittent fasting to think this is fantastic. My wife was also, she introduced us to Dr. Gundry as well at the time, the plant paradox and all that. And so we started doing these brain what was it called? Not brain farts. What was it? A brain freeze? I can't remember what it was. A brain. For basically, the idea is from 4 p.m. you stop maybe once a week or once every couple of weeks. You have your last meal before 4 p.m. and you give your brain a reset, and it worked. It just really worked. You slept better, woke up better. So our regime was kind of in that world of eating healthier, eating less. We cut down on our drinking, and then we started doing some meditation, some yoga, found a personal trainer who's since become a great friend, and we were training with him. And then I saw this video on Pomp's show with Sean Baker, and I thought, well, I like meat. I love a steak. I'm going to try this. So my wife, our personal trainer, his wife, the four of us decided from January the 1st of this year to go strict carnivore for 60 days. And we all did it together, and we all four of us were accountable to each other. After 30 days, his wife and my wife said, oh, I miss a bit of vegetables. I just want a bit of vegetables. And we're like, that's fine. We're going to stick with it. And then after 60 days, our friend and our personal trainer, he also said, oh, I think I might just get back on a little bit of vegetables. And I went, well, I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to stick with it. But essentially, from January the 1st until now, give or take some cheat days, and we can talk about that later, we have between my wife and I, we have 6 eggs and a packet of bacon at about 11:30. We folded eggs, it cooked in butter or ghee, and some bacon. Then we keep the bacon fat for the evening, and then about 5:30, 6 o'clock, we have a couple of Scotch fillets cooked in the bacon fat from the morning, and just to make sure the Scotch fillets taste nice, we put a little bit of rosemary and a little bit of garlic in there, and that's essentially all we eat. Um, I said there was some cheat occasions. We went back to the UK in May. Um, it's not easy doing this, but if you love meat and you love eggs and you love bacon, and you make a rule, which is what we did, we made a rule to ourselves that at home, this is what we will eat when we're at home. If we go to a restaurant or if we go to friends' houses for dinner, we're not going to be that pain in the ass, I'm sorry, I'm a vegan. I can, I'm sorry, I'm a lactose, whatever. No, I'll eat whatever's in front of me. If you're serving salmon and fish and got some nice sourdough bread, I might just have a little bit, but I'm not going to be a fascist about it, because there's a great sketch from Mitchell and Webb. I don't know if you've seen it. Robert Webb and David Mitchell. They had a sketch show in the UK about 20 years ago, and Robert Webb's standing in the kitchen with a glass of wine cooking, and David Mitchell comes in. So what are we having? It smells lovely. And Robert says, "Oh well, it's a pumpkin risotto with feta." And he goes, "Gross, sounds great. And what's for the main course? What's for the meat?" And Robert says, "Oh no meat. My wife Sally and I are vegetarians." He goes, "Oh, I know you're vegetarians. Absolutely. We've known each other 20 years. Just every time you come to our house, we always cook vegetarian. So we just thought you'd return the compliment because, my wife and I like meat." And it's like the penny dropped, and thinking, we always do that. We have our vegan and vegetarian friends. Whenever they come around for dinner, we cater to their diet. But when you go to their house, you cater to their diet. So we didn't want to be that person. So at restaurants, like, oh, share a dessert or share a little bit of bread. But eventually you go, actually, I don't want that. My body's not enjoying it very much. And then you eat out less, which is great because it's bloody expensive. Um, the worst part, I think, in the whole last 9 months of doing this is the trip to London in May. We went to London, and airplane food is pretty gross. And you can't, when you go on the airplane food and it goes, you can choose kosher, halal, vegan. There's no, there's no low carb option. I mean, there's no keto option on an airplane. So it's like, suck it up, son. Put your girly pants on and eat what's given to you, which is fine. But then you're like, oh, that was horrible, including sleeping, sitting up for 25 hours. So that was pretty rough coming back from the UK. Took a while to get back into the keto carnivore regime, because we'd been in the UK and seeing friends, and it was a lot of going around to people's houses for dinner, and you're eating salmon and cottage pie and potatoes and stuff. So the inflammation came back, the headaches came back, the sweating came back, and then we're like, okay, so we've got to get back to Sydney and get back on this. And we've done pretty well. So it's now end of September, and I'm very proud to say we've done 9 months. There have been the odd weekend where my wife and I we just go on a Sunday, we just want to sit in front of a movie and order pizza, which we've done 2 or 3 times. But the important thing is not to beat yourself up out of it. It's not that no one's holding a gun to your head, so you have to do this. But if it's made us feel so much better in many, many ways, which I'm sure we can talk about. And I think it's fantastic. And I'm not going to go back to the old way. And as Sean Baker said, so long as you're feeling good and you know what's going in your body and you know what your body loves, that's the most important thing.
Really appreciate the kind of that difference there when you're talking about the vegans come around, so you cater to them, but the opposite way, you still cater to them.
Yeah.
You talk about Mitchell and Webb. Is that the guys from that they made that spy Peep show?
Yeah.
That's that's it.
Yeah.
That was
It's a great
show.
sketch. It's really it's very observant of how we do we have sort of catered to vegetarians and vegans as if, oh, you're special. We must give you Whereas if you say, I just eat meat, they think you're nuts. You're going, well,
Mm.
no. Quite happy with animal protein. Thank you very much.
Yeah. This sounds like a really good thing you've got going. Like good breakfast, 6 eggs, bacon, then the Scotch fillets in the evening. Eating that way, what have been some of the things that have improved for you?
Yes. Well, where do you start? It's where do we start? So first of all, I have more energy than now at 53 than I had at 33, and I was doing 8 shows a week in the West End of London as an actor, and I've got more energy now. You know, I was eating sandwiches and drinking, going out after the show to the pub and having, I as you do. But at 53, I feel fitter and more energized than I've done for 20, probably in my life, really. I get out of bed now, like, boom. I'm not an early riser because I work late, but I'm 8 o'clock, 8 to 8, yeah, pretty much 8 o'clock every morning. My body clock gets up. My circadian rhythms are working properly for the first time in my life, as opposed to feeling sluggish in the morning and not wanting to get up or having an alarm I haven't had an alarm wake me up in 9 months. It's just I get up 8 o'clock and I'm up and at 'em. That's another thing. Oh God, there's so many. I don't snore anymore, or so my wife tells me, which is fantastic. I don't have any pain, back pain, knee pain. That's inflammation. That's gone. Um, my eyes are. I wear glasses to drive and glasses to read, but I'm not wearing them as much. I'm finding myself taking them off and being able to watch TV without my glasses on. But I think that's a minor thing. I don't know. And this is gonna sound really weird. My hair is slightly growing back. It's getting there's a little bit of tufts coming back, which is we're both are with the cap guys. This is my honor to you, Dave. But I do wear hats all the time anyway. But yeah, my hair's getting a bit fluffier on top. Um, Oh, well, there's so many. I can't think. There's so many. My skin feels cleaner. It just feels nicer. I'm not getting those, sometimes you get little rashes or little blotches or zits or the little things. I mean, it's not saying it's not psoriasis or anything, but your skin sometimes says, "Ooh, something happened." None of that. It's absolutely none of that. The organ that is the skin is has never felt so good. Bloating, no more bloating. Haven't had any bloating for ages. No rushing to the toilet, needing to, you know, do a poo. I mean, it's just everything is just so I'm happier. I'm more chilled. Um, I'm not getting so angry at stuff anymore. It's eh, things don't annoy me. I just go, yeah, whatever. I suppose I'm becoming a bit more stoical, really. And I don't know whether it's because I've been reading about stoicism or whether it's because I've been meditating or whether it's because I've been training with a personal trainer and I'm doing yoga, but it's all combined because I actually now desire to go to the park and box and lift weights and lift heavy. Whereas when I was eating carbs, I couldn't be asked to go to a gym that I was paying shitloads of money for. And now I'm like, no, 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 I want to get out. I want to. I've got this energy, and I do a workout in the morning every morning as well without my personal trainer. This has never happened to me. That I feel motivated. There's probably many more that I can't even think of. That I'm sure they'll come. Maybe you'll remind me of some. The weight loss, obviously, I've lost weight. I'm down probably that much on my belt.
I just want to talk a little bit about one of the later ones you mentioned. You said kind of happier, less angry. Sounds
Mm.
like less reactive, I guess.
Mm.
Do you feel that it's given you this ability to more kind of step back from a situation, not be so, oh, I've got to fix this. I'm involved. I've got to, what's the solution kind of thing,
Yeah.
or
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've always been a very reactionary kind of person. Things all my life, things have annoyed me and pissed me off, and I've never been afraid to say that something's pissed me off, and I've never kind of bottled something in and gone, "Oh, just be the quiet guy." I've always been the one who goes, "No, no, that's not fair," or "No, that's out of order," or especially driving, "You dick," But I've just found that I don't anymore. I just kinda just let it go. It's not important. Um, I just think I'm thinking more positively, about things. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, when you mentioned the driving one, like I don't drive anymore, but I was driving when I was in Australia at Christmas time, and it does feel like, before if someone had cut me off, I'd be like the same thing, like, "You asshole."
Yeah,
Ah,"
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Now it's just like, it doesn't really matter.
I know.
It
It's like, "Well,
it
mate, come
it
in. You're in a
didn't affect
hurry."
me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
Now, whether that's to do with eating animal protein or not, I don't know. It could be a combination of just getting older, wiser, calmer, but everything's relative, isn't it? And this is what the interesting thing about when I have fallen off the wagon, especially like with the trip to London, or when we maybe just are feeling sluggish or something, and you go, "Oh, I just fancy a pizza," or whatever, or you go to someone's house for dinner and they're vegetarians and all there is vegetables to eat. Um, I do get tummy ache. I do feel a bit sick, and I do get a bit annoyed at stuff, even for 24 hours afterwards. Some things will piss me off, and I'm going, "Well, check that." That's kind of interesting. So maybe there is something to it.
Yeah. So you did mention that, like, you had this 60-day challenge, and your wife's friend kind of was 30 days in, and they were like, "Okay, well, we're gonna go back to vegetables now."
Just a
But
little bit,
then,
just like to have
yeah,
broccoli with a steak, yeah.
okay. But that it sounds like, your wife's basically eating the same way as you now, so she
Yeah.
kinda gravitated more towards back to carnivore.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, yeah. Because
Okay.
she's also feeling the same way. She's got more energy as well than she's ever had. My wife actually says that she's feeling very focused. She's not feeling so disparate with all she's got a lot of things on. She has a lot of, work things, different areas, and, sometimes it's hard to focus on things when you have a lot going on, and she's found that certainly eating eggs and bacon and meat has really helped her get clarity of mind and focus, and she can start a task and finish a task instead of having those distractions of things coming in. So that's worked for her, which is really interesting. And for me, I just feel like I can get more done in a day as well, and I just work. I mean, I'm a voice actor, and I can just spend all day in here voicing, and I'm full of energy, full of beans. Then I can go to the park, and then come back and do some more. I've not really felt like that before.
Mm.
Mm.
And I'm sure that comes through in your work, just having that more energy. It's much easier to put the inflection and everything you need to do into your voice when you're recording stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, and I think it just makes you happier as well. Makes you more positive with people. Again, maybe I'm doing myself a disservice, but I'm sure in my 30s I was a bit I was the grumpy old I was very grumpy about stuff, but I was living in London and traveling on public transport, so, give me a break. But it was, it was, I'm less grumpy now. Maybe that's because I'm living in Australia and I'm older, but, certainly less grumpy, and at work that really helps, because it means I'm not putting my vibe on other people.
Mm.
It's interesting. Um, there's this thing, when you ask people how they are, and they go, "Oh, not bad," or they go, "I'm doing all right," or
That's a
they
very
go,
Australian thing. Not
"Yeah,
bad,
fair
pretty
to
good.
middling." or yeah, I'm okay, and that's people don't realize it's like that's an energy you're putting out there to say, oh, life could be better. And again, my trainer, he used to say, whenever I'd ask him how he was, he'd go, fantastic, top of the world, never been better. And I'm like, you always say that. And he's like, yeah. And how do you feel when I say that? It makes me feel good. He's like, exactly. So it's that positivity. I know it might sound a bit woo woo, but when people say, how are you? And you go, I'm great. I'm fantastic. It's a glorious day. There's something about convincing yourself as well that you don't have to, "Oh, I'm all right. I'm okay. Life's a bit shit." Even if life is a bit shit, if you say, "Wow, I'm fantastic," suddenly life's not so shitty anymore.
Right. Yeah. It completely changes your feeling about stuff, no matter how bad things are.
Yeah, and again, I don't know
Mm.
if there's a connection. There haven't been many studies. I know that Sean Baker and Anthony Chaffee are trying to get studies done, and I would certainly put my hand up and volunteer, but we need to have more studies on this than anecdotal evidence, because it really annoys me when, the medical or the government or the pharmaceutical people go, "Oh, no, no, eating meat gives you cancer, and eating animal proteins, cholesterol, saturated fat, yada, 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 yada." What about doing some bloody studies instead of,
Mm.
"Oh, we've looked at 150 people who ate 4 hot dogs and 6 hamburgers a day." Well, duh. Look at the people and now we can give them all these diabetic pills. It's like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
So, yeah, we need more studies, and if we had some studies that we could have a link between, eating animal protein and nutritious foods like this, and clarity of mind, clarity of body, I think that would be a fantastic thing. Just someone needs to do it.
Yeah. I think my feeling about this is the people who are kind of anti-meat, the lack of studies is actually good for them, because it's kind of like their get out of jail free card, because they can say whatever they want. And then when you say, yeah, but look at all these people that are doing well on a meat only diet, and they say, yeah, but there's no long-term studies on this. And it's like, well, how can you can't argue anymore. They've just like
Yeah.
basically shut down the argument.
But it's so sad, because the goal, the common goal of all of us should be our health and our well-being. It's not some competition. It's not either or. This whole sort of, oh, you got to be plant-based, or you've got to be carnivore. It's like the battle of the wills. It's like, actually, it should be, we've all got to come together and say we need to fight processed foods made with high fructose corn syrup, maltodextrin, soy, all this Monsanto seed stuff that's being built in monoculture. Monoculture, don't people realize that you're just killing the soil and destroy? Don't get me started with all that. I mean, I could rant for hours about that, but it's like, a plant-based person is not my enemy, and a carnivore-based person should not be a plant-based enemy. We should all be against the massive corporations that are making cheap shit that they're giving the world, which is making everybody uh, pre-diabetic at too young an age. Children are getting type 2 diabetes now. Children. It used to be called the diabetes for the over 50s. Now children are getting type 2 diabetes. And then type 3 diabetes is the new name for Alzheimer's. And they're now bringing a link to that. So you're going, okay, what is going on? Why are we fighting amongst plant-based people? And maybe, controversial, but maybe it's because plant-based people are so bloody angry at the world. It's like, just eat some meat and be happy. So there, I said it.
Yeah. I, I fully agree with you, though. We shouldn't be at odds. If I want to eat this way, I should be allowed to eat this way. If you want to eat plant-based diet, then go for it. Eat a plant-based diet. I got no issue with that.
No,
But our common enemy should be the middle aisles of the supermarket. I mean, that's
absolutely.
basically, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then there's all this stuff about, um, oh, what was it? No, sorry, it's gone. It's all right. Yep.
Um, yeah. So, just to expand on this, I had someone comment on one of my videos the other day where I was just kind of I had a sarcastic take on a vegan's take on cholesterol measurements of a carnivore,
Oh yeah.
and like it was just kind of tongue in cheek and whatever. And the person that commented said, "Yeah, but a plant-based diet has been shown to keep cholesterol low." And I said, "Yeah, but it's not a zero-sum game. It's like just because this is working, this particular thing's working for a group of people doesn't mean something else can't work for another group of people. It's not
Sure.
like one thing or the other."
Sure.
Again, and it just comes back to the issue is the processed food in the middle, you know?
Yeah. But also,
Yeah.
look, I mean, I'm not a doctor, and I don't claim to know anything about it. But in my research,
Mm.
um, HDL and LDL cholesterol we need in our body. It's part of what makes us up. The issue is how much the LDL, how bad can the LDL cholesterol get in terms of coronary heart disease? And the thing is there's if you it, it dep- it's like when doctors back in the 1940s used to recommend smoking cigarettes. Now, just because the medical profession say high cholesterol is bad doesn't mean that having a diet that is high in saturated fats is going to make high cholesterol that will kill you. Because do you know what I mean? I mean, there's an interview on YouTube, and I saw it, and he was talking exactly about this. Um, about how it's not such this high cholesterol thing is a little bit of a furphy because
Mm.
everybody reacts differently. It depends on your body composition, depends on
Yeah.
what physical exercise. Now, if you've got high cholesterol and you are sitting on your ass all day, right, and you've got high LDL cholesterol and you're watching TV all day and you're eating junk food, yeah, that's pretty bad. But if you're eating a diet high in saturated fats, your LDL cholesterol is higher than what the uh, government says it is, but you are training and you're working out and you're running, that cholesterol's probably not going to give you coronary heart disease. But again, I'm not a doctor and there's no studies on this, but to say I have a low cholesterol diet, well, is that such a great thing either? Do we know? I don't know.
No, I mean, and just to follow on from your point, I think that's part of the issue is it's so nuanced, and
Mm,
you know, um, often people that are saying, "Well, it has to be low, it has to be low, it has to be low," all they're doing is giving you the headline. They're
mm,
not telling you about the nuance. So they're not saying, "Well, it has to be low in an environment where you're eating lots of sugar, you're
mm,
ingesting fructose, you're all this kind of thing, which is going to which is going to cause damage in your body, which is going to cause
mm,
inflammation, which is going to, create
mm,
issues with the LDL."
mm.
Um, so yeah, which
Look,
which we're not doing.
no,
So
at the end of the day, how we want to eat, as you said, it should be a personal choice. What we should be doing, hopefully, as a people, as a race of humans on this planet, is doing our best to encourage the healthiest type of eating possible. Now, what is the healthiest type of eating possible? It's whatever makes you feel at your best, at your optimum, whether you're a vegan or a carnivore or somewhere in between. If you feel fantastic on your diet, then what you're doing for you is correct. And if a doctor turns around and says, but what you're doing is wrong, you should be able to say, how can it be wrong? I'm feeling fantastic. No, no, you'd be, one day you might get cancer. Well, yeah, one day I might get run over by a bus. One day you might get, yeah, one day, whatever. What we all need to be doing is making sure that we're not relying on a health system or a sick care system, as I like to call it, because it's not about health. It's not a healthcare system. We don't want to be relying on a sick care system, which is in the pocket of big pharma, which we know. Let's not deny that they do want to sell drugs. It's a massive, massive multi-billion-dollar industry. So it's up to us. It behooves us to say, I just want to have. We're all going to die, right? We're all going to die. We know that. I'd rather have I'd rather have a very quick death when I'm fit than have a very long, slow death for 20, 30 years because I'm pumping myself full of drugs to keep me alive because I can eat, biscuits and chocolate and sugar. I mean, sugar, a few 34, was it 50 years ago, about the 70s, this guy said sugar's the big evil. They all thought he was a madman. They went, he's nuts. This guy's crazy. This English, I think he was English, or might have been Australian. He said,
It
no,
says
sugar is
Yudkin.
I think that's him. Sugar's the biggest evil in the world. It will destroy us all. It's and everyone went, you're mad, you're mad, you're mad. And then fat was the enemy. Then they started putting sugar in all these things and calling it low fat. And then we had this epidemic, which was still suffering of diabetes and coronary heart disease. And what's really interesting is back in the 19th century, that the biggest killers were infectious diseases, cholera, typhoid, consumption, infant mortality, all this kind of stuff was this. No one had cancer or type 2 diabetes or heart disease back in the 19th century. It's only since we started going on a high processed regime, which was run by big agri, big corporations wanting to make profits. That's the end. They're the enemy for humanity. We've all got to stick together. Plant-based, vegetarians, pescatarians, carnivores. So long as we're eating really healthily, and we're not having all these, as you say, the middle line of the supermarket of all the stuff that's full of sugar and flashy colors. But it's very, very powerful to get people to eat all that because it's cheap. And the fact that the food pyramid now in America is recommending Cheerios and Oreos as saying it's part of the, seriously, someone has lost the plot. It's like, when's the emperor's new clothes moment going to happen? When is someone go, ha 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 ha, look, the emperor's naked? Somebody surely has got to just turn around and go, sorry, have we lost the plot? You're now recommending high sugar, high carbohydrate diets as part of the standard American diet, and people think this is normal? Oh, well, that's what the government says, so they must be right. Oh boy, what's happened to critical thinking?
Yeah. I when that came out, I remember making a video about it, and someone commented and said, yeah, but you're not reading it properly. You're not reading it in context. It's not supposed to be compared like that, like ground beef versus Cheerios. It's not, and if it's not supposed to be compared, then what's the point of it?
Totally. To
It's,
spend money.
yeah.
And all these studies are all financed by farmers, by big food companies. They're
It's
the
all,
ones that are
and feels like it's not to actually get to an answer about anything. It's just to muddy the waters enough so that no one's got any idea what they should really be doing.
Yeah. We need to take a long, hard look at who benefits.
Yeah.
And look at your own health. I saw, was it Dr. Eric Berg or someone the other day? I can't remember. Someone said the other day on YouTube, if your doctor does not, I think it might have been Sean Baker actually, if your doctor is not interested in what you're eating, you should find another doctor. It might have been Jay Wortman. I think I saw a talk by, do you know Dr. Jay Wortman, the Canadian doctor? He does an amazing talk on Low Carb Life Australia. It's fantastic. It's about an hour and a half with Q&A. And most doctors don't ask, what are you eating? They just go, what how are you feeling? Now, take nothing away from doctors. Doctors are brilliant people, but why after 7 years of medical school do doctors do zero on nutrition? Nothing on vitamins, minerals. It's all about, there's a problem, how do you fix it? Which is great, which is fantastic, but surely we've got to start talking about what we put into our bodies. So we don't want to go to the doctor. The idea is to not go to the doctor, isn't it? Or did I miss a meeting?
So I feel like, so when I was a kid, I feel like doctors were much more concerned about actually working out what was wrong.
Yeah.
Whereas now it feels a lot more like it's just, we've got to get people through. And that might just be because they're overwhelmed. That might be nothing to do with profit or something like that.
Yeah,
that
for
might
sure.
just be like, there's so many sick people now compared to before.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's a little bit like a fireman or a firefighter going around and just putting out these spot fires everywhere, but never stopping to think, hang on, these spot fires keep occurring. Maybe I need to find out what the root cause of this is and go and put that fire out first. And then the spot fires will stop. But instead, he's just going around putting band-aids on all the fires, hoping that at some point it's going to end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it's
so.
Yeah.
I'm really interested to know. I've only visited Australia for very short periods of time over the last 17 years, so I'm not really sure about how to behave in Australia because I live in a very culturally different country now, and
you've become Japanese now, Dave.
Right? Yeah. So, like, when someone says hello to me, I'm more likely to bow my head and say hello back. So.
I just kiss everybody, you know.
The funny thing is here, like when just left Australia, like if you were meeting a new person, you go up to them, you kind of give them a hug and maybe a kiss on the cheek or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And then I got to Japan and I do that to my friends, you know, and like they just go when you give them a hug. It's like, because it's just, there's no public displays of affection here. It's really quite different. But so recently I saw something on the news that happened in Perth, which was you know, a group of vegan activists going into a restaurant called the Fire Restaurant and kind of protesting about you shouldn't be eating meat and whatever, and they were playing audio of pigs squealing and all this kind of stuff. You're in Sydney. How is the climate there as far as, you know, people telling you shouldn't be eating meat and stuff like that?
Well, I've not experienced anything like that at all. I have vegan friends. They know I'm a carnivore. We talk, we debate. It's a nuanced conversation. There's no shouting. There's no slanging. We respect each other's way of eating, and we remain friends, which is, I think, what we should be in life, instead of where we have been for the last few years, which is everybody getting angry at everybody else. And if you don't agree with me, then you're wrong. You know, I'm right, you're wrong. It's like, well, actually, there's a big effing gray area in the middle, and we should all learn how to talk and communicate as grown-ups. And so I haven't found anything like that here at all. I will say, though, that we're very, very fortunate in Australia that we grow all our own stuff. I mean, our cows are all pasture fed. You know, from Queensland, they roam the country. They're very, very well looked after, very healthy animals. The interesting debate about the sort of the squealing pigs thing is, anybody with a heart, us included, us meat eaters included, the last thing we want to do is to see animals suffer. A suffering animal, whether it's chickens being cooped up where you can't even tell one tail from one head, which is disgusting, and that should be absolutely dealt with. That's feeding that insatiable appetite for cheap meat that's all ground together. Maybe that makes pet food, or maybe it goes into fast food restaurants or whatever, or cheap food. Okay, we're not, just because somebody is a carnivore doesn't, you can't automatically then jump to the conclusion that they're fine with animals being treated that way, because that is absolutely not the case. And I would totally defend my corner with a vegan who is an animal cruelty protester, and saying, no, I 100% agree with you on that. Whether one should then be attacking people who eat meat by saying, look at how animals are treated. At the end of the day, in Australia, animals aren't treated like that. But let's just take this to the next step. Let's connect the dots. Nature is cruel. When you see the bison, cattle, you go back thousands and thousands of years, these animals, the young were taken by predators. So you had young calves and young babies being ripped from their mothers by lions, by cheetahs, by the predators that were faster and stronger with the sharper teeth. And the old, who were infirm and slow, were taken. And normally they would be ripped apart. These animals would be torn apart by hyenas, dingoes, cheetahs, lions, go straight for the neck, go for the carotid artery, a horrible, lying there to die a slow death in the veldt. Or they would freeze to death because they were too slow to find food. Now, if you've got a bunch of very happy cattle, happy sheep, munching on grass all day, being left alone, and then one day a bolt goes in their brain and they die like that, and they can provide 500 pounds of nutritious meat for a family. Why is that bad? And I'm sorry, vegans, but having cattle eating, and let's remember, cows are vegetarians, sheep are vegetarians. They're ruminant animals. They have different compartments in their stomachs and more stomachs. So they are taking the plants, they're eating all the good stuff out of the plants. Their bodies are taking all the toxins in the plants, all the oxalates and lactates and all that stuff. They're expelling all of that, and all the good stuff is going into their flesh. And they're having wonderful, happy lives until one day they are executed, which is far preferable to them having this being torn apart by predators or falling under a tree in the freezing cold. I mean, okay, maybe what I'm saying is controversial, but I don't care. I just think the animals who are they poo in the soil. The soil is better. Where do you think vegetables come from? Vegetables grow in soil. Soil comes from nutrients. Where do nutrients come from? From animal feces. You know, do you want me to run it through you again? It's like it's the cycle of life. And if we didn't eat animals, we would be overrun. What are you going to do with all these animals? They've just slaughtered hundreds of heads of cattle in Ireland in the name of climate change. What? So you're going to slaughter animals in the name of climate change, but we can't eat them? The lunatics are running the asylum, Dave? It's like, and I know I sound impassioned about it because I am, because I believe in the natural law of things, and the natural law of things is that we all live in harmony on this planet, and there's a cycle of life through nutrients, through worms, through insects, through animals, through humans. There's a food chain. It works. It's worked for millions of years. To now suddenly say, I'm going to play you videos of squealing pigs to make you feel guilty for eating meat. I'm sorry. It's nuts. It's lunacy. Yeah. There you go. I've said it. Thanks, haters.
So, where does this go for you? Let's say that let's say a doctor could come to you right now, like not just your local GP, like some world renowned doctor who's got all these credentials and written all these papers and whatever, and he could come to you with proof that you continue eating saturated fat the way you are, and you are going to have a heart attack at some point.
Proof?
Yeah, let's say it's proof. The hypothetical, he's got proof. Given how good you feel doing carnivore, would you say, I'm willing to accept that risk? Or would you say, okay, well, maybe I need to moderate my eating and potentially go back to not feeling as good?
That's a really, really interesting question. I will précis it by saying that there is proof that eating eating high fructose corn syrup and sugar and processed flours and processed sugars give you type 2 diabetes. Proof. Proof. Yet it is still being pushed. It is still being sold. It is still, no one is, okay. We know this. We know this for a fact. It's proof. And yet every time a government of any country says they want to put a tax on sugary fizzy drinks, oh, that'll affect the poor. Every time they want to put a tax on junk food, oh, but it'll affect the poor. Okay, so what are you really saying? That the poor should have 4 liters of Coke for 6 cents? Why? Because they're going to die. There's proof. So at what point do you then say to the government or the corporation that's pushing that poison, I'm suing you, like they sued the cigarette firms 20 years ago after all these years, and they finally admitted that yes, smoking does cause lung cancer, and then the cigarette companies were sued by a class action lawsuit. At what point do we say proof makes change? So that's my first point. I would say is there's plenty of proof, and I've looked at the proof for sugar, and I've looked at the proof for high fructose corn syrup, and I've looked at the proof for palm oil, and I've looked at the proof for seed oils. I've seen the proof, so I've decided to cut them out of my regime. If you then showed me proof that eating beef would increase my risk of heart disease, I would take the same action probably. I would reduce my consumption because there's proof. But who is giving you that proof? Where's that proof coming from? How many years of study? It's taken decades to get the proof that sugar and high fructose corn syrup and highly processed flours are poison to our bodies. Decades. So by the time I understand the question, but by the time there is proof either way of what beef does, I'm probably going to be dead anyway. So I'm going to keep eating meat because I don't think that proof is going to come. I used to get heart palpitations, little sort of a lie in bed, and I could feel boom, boom, boom. Not since going to a high to animal protein, high cholesterol diet, guys. No, yes, I have a saturated fat diet of animal protein. I eat a lot of butter, a lot of eggs, a lot of bacon fat. I haven't cooked in olive oil. And I used to love olive oil on bread with tomatoes and salt. Gorgeous. But I got a tummy ache afterwards, so I stopped eating it. If you don't get a tummy ache from it, then keep eating it. That's good. We're all different, man. We're all different. Again, if somebody says there's proof that this is it, I'm going to go, who's asking the question? Who's doing the answer? And what have they got to gain? Who benefits? I always ask who benefits,
Yeah. That's actually the important thing at the end of the day. Who's benefiting from this when I take the action you're recommending?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great question, though. It does make you think, oh, here's proof that smoking kills, so people aren't smoking anymore. I mean, I have a coffee every morning. If suddenly is there proof that, coffee makes you blind? Well, I'll probably quit coffee. Yeah, because I want to live as long as possible. I want to be healthy. Yeah.
So, do you have a YouTube or some social media or a website or anything if people want to reach out to you?
I'm on Instagram, which I only really post work stuff on it, but you can DM me on Instagram if you want, and I'm on LinkedIn, but I'm not on Facebook, and I'm not on Twitter book or FaceX or whatever that's Insta. I don't even have a smartphone, so look, I mean that's my phone. I'm not a smartphone person either, and I hold it like a badge of honor now. It's almost like a joke. It's like look at my Nokia, but I just yeah. So yeah, if people want to reach out to me, they can, and but be kind, because if anybody wants to say anything that's rude or abusive, it'll be ignored, because I think we all need to be nice. and we need to
Yeah.
be pleasant and kind to each other.
There needs to be more of that these days, right? Because we've really lost that.
Well, it's this because of this. It's because of social media. It's because everybody can,
Mm.
be typewriter warriors and hide behind a sort of an anonymous mask, as opposed to just coming out and saying how they feel. But unfortunately, what happens these days, if anybody says anything wrong, they get all the haters, and you're going, well, how about let's just have a conversation.
Mm.
That's
Yeah.
interesting. Why would why is that your opinion on something, as opposed to yeah. There's a lot of anger around, man.
That's a really good point. That is a really good point. Like, you used to respond to people with things like, "That's a very interesting point. Tell me
Yeah.
more about
Tell me
that,"
more about that.
or
Unpack that for
Why
me."
do you feel that way?"
Yeah.
It's not, but now it's just like, "You can't say that."
You can't say that. Okay, well, I just
Yeah.
did. What are you gonna do?
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, Rupert, thank you so much for spending time with us today and sharing your
Been a
journey. I really
pleasure.
appreciate it.
An absolute pleasure, Dave. Thank you.